of felt like it was showing me something. It's a fucking unicorn.
We need to study it.
Whatever it is, it seems to be the cure for cancer.
Hey everybody, welcome back. We're doing another trailer react today, and today we are looking at Death of a Unicorn. It's a new A24 film. Don't know anything about it, so let's get started.
Ridley, are you okay?
It kind of felt like it was showing me something.
It's interesting.
I get this feeling I don't...
Alright, so it looks like maybe an area. It's not just a clever title. Maybe this actually is literally about the death of a unicorn. We've got Jenna Ortega. She was walking up to a unicorn or some kind of a horse-like creature in frame. You looked in the eye, and you saw the universe in the eye of this creature. Like if we run it back a little bit. Oh, I missed it again.
It was showing me something.
Yeah. Well, so you saw the stars in the eye, and I mean, are there allusions here to Equus? I don't know. Equus being, you know, this play about the these imagined equine horse-like gods that were part of a psychological issue between a troubled young man and his therapist. So maybe there's something like that happening. Oh, now we've got going into Jenna Ortega's eye.
I get this feeling I don't think we're supposed to be here.
Okay, 24, very Shining-like.
Fine.
It's really interesting, this shot. You got Paul Rudd there, and we saw this crane shot, drone shot, going over what looked like a large house. Then you have this winding road. This is very, very reminiscent to the beginning of Stanley Kubrick's Shining.
They will sit there and smile.
Sorry, what happened? You walked from the airport or what?
It's perfect timing.
Richard E. Grant. Love Richard E. Grant. With Null and I. Check out Richard E. Grant in that. He was very good in the Loki series.
I need you to act like everything is fine. Is there something in your car?
Will Porter. Oh, all right. So we had the horn that came up. Let's see if I can. There we go. So we've got the horn coming up through the car. So maybe the unicorn isn't quite as dead. It's interesting that this is about an actual unicorn. I really would not have assumed.
The species in this area are rare. What exactly are we saying is though?
I think we know exactly.
Horse-like mammalia.
It's a fucking unicorn, is what she says.
It's a fucking unicorn.
Yes, it is, Jenna Ortega. It is a fucking unicorn. Look at that. So it looks like a bit of a comedy. Well, if it's from the same people as Everything Everywhere All at Once, then it's definitely a comedy. We've got some scientists here that are examining it. It looks like they have a piece of horn. So maybe this is an interrogation of the difference between physical, material reality and spiritual reality, a question of truth versus fiction, and where those things bleed over in terms of folklore. If something is real and meaningful to you, maybe there is some real meaning to it. Religiously speaking, I'm actually what's called an omnist. So I believe in whatever anybody else believes in. That doesn't mean I don't have beliefs of my own, but let's say that, well, I'm not Christian, so I don't necessarily believe in the divinity and story of Jesus Christ. So what that means is that that may not be real to me, but it is real to a lot of people who are Christians, so therefore I'll actually accept that. I will believe that God and religious framework exist, but I will not necessarily worship that God. I will not believe that that's the only God. The same way, like when I go to Japan and, you know, there are all these animist traditions and Shinto and things like that, I'm more than happy to believe as the regional people believe. So there is a bleed. You can exist in this great margin between your own subjective reality objective reality and spiritual reality and balance those three things, there's always a philosophical argument to sort of triangulate there. And maybe this film is interrogating that, because you have a mythological creature, a unicorn. Obviously, it has some sort of spiritual power about it, as we saw in the beginning of the trailer, but now you've got the scientists coming in, they're examining it. So this is where scientific objective reality is starting to meet this cold front of spiritual reality.
We need to study it.
Whatever it is, it seems to be the cure for cancer.
Cancer? Man.
All right, so the question is, if the unicorn horn has the cure for cancer, now are we asking about resource exploitation? Are we acting in a capacity to interrogate something like capitalism, where there's a finite resource and it's going to be held and exploited by this small group of people? Who truly owns it? What is ownership? Obviously, cancer affects so many people, and if this unicorn is the cure for cancer, then that also maybe becomes an allegory for environmentalism. Like the question of, like, if we have such a scarce resource, but it is so necessary, like rare earth metals that we use in the manufacturing of electronics and electric cars and things like that, who can own that? Who can exploit that? And obviously, we don't have enough for everybody to have it. So should we even develop technologies in that direction, or should we look for alternatives? So this is already setting up some very interesting philosophical questions. Richard E. Grant doing Richard E. Grant. Run, run, run. It's not her. Okay, so maybe there's going to be another. All right, so now it's turning into a bit of a horror film. Now this is the revenge of nature, the revenge of the hubris of trying to look at spirituality through an objective lens, something that is inherently irrational, has a lot of power. Like what we see in American politics, sort of going back a few years, starting with like QAnon. If we go back like 6-7 years, you sort of saw this mythology that mainstream media and most rational people would look at it and say, hey, this is a crazy group of conspiracies, lizard people, Illuminati, all these different things. But now, fast forward to the current time, we have taken those irrational things, and because we fought back so hard against them in terms of belief, those beliefs became entrenched. There's something that happens when, like, if you're in a cult or even a recognized religion like Mormonism or Jehovah's Witnesses, where you send out these evangelical kids basically into the world to knock on people's doors and say, like, hey, have you heard the good word? And the thing about those missions, those evangelical excursions, which we've also been seeing in films lately, the thing about them is that they're not really engineered to recruit new people. They're engineered to entrench the people who are already in that framework, because they're going to be met with non-believers outside of their community who are now antagonistic to them. So they're going to retreat and seek safety within that group. So it's going to reinforce the idea that this religious community is your only community. So how does this tie back to what we're looking about this unicorn? It's to say, like, if these scientists came in, they're examining the unicorn, what they may be coming out with is this, stronger, either another version of the unicorn, a different one, or a zombified version of the unicorn that we saw that it hit by the car. I don't know. We're just watching the trailer. But whatever it is, it's taking revenge on them, because it's saying, hey, spirituality cannot necessarily be torn apart by science without making it stronger for those that believe it. So if they were working on that premise as a sort of metaphor in this film, I'm really excited about that. Yep, more kind of horror comedy. Richard E. Grant is always fantastic. If you saw him in Saltburn, always fantastic. Maybe they're eating the unicorn. And we've got Paul Rudd find out. Yep, here we go. the unicorn is maybe hunting them one at a time. I'm really curious to know if the unicorn is transformed into this sort of nightmare, right? Like the Denver airport. If you ever saw photos of the Denver airport where you see this giant evil black horse with glowing red eyes, that sort of thing is a nightmare, a dark horse. It also ties in maybe with the Thracian horses, the flesh-eating horses of mythology, where Alexander the Great was said to have ridden a Thracian flesh-eating horse. There's something about a horse which is such a benign and docile and really strong part of how human civilization has evolved as an animal, a beast of burden, something that we needed. It was a very primitive, really biological machine for us. It moved armies, it moved cargo. It was really the mechanism by which humanity was able to spread so far across the world. And deep down, I know that we probably worry from having tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of years of working alongside horses, that the things that we have done or required or asked of them may not always have been reciprocal. Some of them may have been cruel. I know a lot of people who love horses and work with horses, and they definitely don't treat them cruelly, but we also don't rely on horses like we used to have to rely on horses in civilization. So the idea of a nightmare, a dark horse, an evil horse, or a flesh-eating horse really stems from the idea of us worrying that these things are going to turn on us one day. So death of a unicorn, there it is. And is there a little stinger? Coming soon.